What's up, my loves? Today I have a surprise for you. I've had quite a few requests to redo this airbrush template, but in the format for Affinity. So we're going to be doing that today, and I'll show you from the ground up how we can achieve it. And then on top of that, I have the clipping path function was highly requested as well. Not clipping path, but more of a clipping mask of an image, and how to do that in Affinity as well as Photoshop. So today we're going to break this down in Affinity and then also do Photoshop. I will not always do both, but as I'm going through, I will be also stating how I would do it in another program. So just in case I don't record the other version of it, then you've at least heard me say what you would click on in the alternative program, because this can be quite a lot trying to do tutorials for two different programs. So y'all bear with me. I am still learning Affinity, but I do feel like I can do well enough with it that I can tell you all how to achieve a lot of the basic things that you want to do, but are just too inundated to really open this program and play with it. So I'm encouraging you to get into it. So let's get into it. All right, so these are the templates that I have available in my Photoshop program. So we're going to recreate them for Affinity. So you'll be seeing from first step to last how we create these looks. So I'm going to go ahead and pull these off of my screen just for a moment, and then I'll pull them back on as layers because I want you to see how your program's going to open fresh and clean, and you'll have to do File, New, and hopefully you have your preset saved by now. This is my 13 by 19 preset, but it's basically 13 by 19, 150 dpi. That's dots per inch. In Photoshop, it's probably going to say ppi, which means pixels per inch. Same thing. Let's go ahead and say okay and get it going. Now it popped up over here, so I'm going to bring it back to my main window. So that's what's going to show up. It'll either show up as a white background or transparent background, depending on how you have your default set up. And then what I'm going to do is grab, these are just PNG files. So hopefully it will pull it in. And if not, I am not going to trip. No, I'm not going to save those changes. I'm just going to pull them in from my folder. So that one happens to be a JPEG. I click on it in my layers. Oh, I have my pan tool selected. So I'm going to make sure I'm on my selection tool, my arrow. And then I'm going to pull in this hot girl one as well. And that's actually the one we're going to do first, because I've done the airbrush one before. I know you all want to see it in Affinity, and we're going to get to that. But the first one I'm going to do is the photo clip, because this is a very highly anticipated effect as well. You can put pictures inside of here. You can clip landscapes, patterns, prints, textures. Like if you wanted this to look denim, you can drop a denim pattern into it and maybe even put some stitches around it. It would look like it was stitched onto the shirt. That could be a cool effect. That sounds like a good next tutorial. We'll see. Y'all know I'm backed up. All right, so let's get into it. We're going to start off with our basic text. And I'm not sure what font is selected. By default, it shows Arial. And I'm going to go ahead, before I even start typing, I want to increase the size of my font or my text so that when I type, I can see what I'm working with. So we're going to type hot girl. And right now, she doesn't look like such a hot girl, but all that is about to change. Her life is about to change with this font. All right, so let's type it in. I believe it's named Flame Fire Font. There she goes. And already, she's looking good. All right, so you can just do this in a certain color and this might be exactly what you want. But of course, we can't stop there. we have to do more. So I just did Control Plus to zoom in a little bit, and I'm holding down my space bar so that I can pan the image just a little so I can see what I'm working with. All right, so first things first, before we even clip our image and do all of that good stuff, I want to make sure that I'm going to get my desired effects for the outside, because the photo clipping could be a little intense. So we're going to see what we can do with the outline. In order to get an outline, we're going to go down here to the bottom of the layers panel and add a layer effect. So you can double click on that. Let's do an outline in this program. In Photoshop, it will be called a stroke. So outline, we're going to increase this radius, and then we need to change the color of the outline. And as a matter of fact, this outline has a gradient, so instead of color, the fill style, let's choose gradient. And it looks like it's going from white to black right now, which is cool. We'll keep that as is, and then we'll increase this radius size so we can see what's going on here. And I want to get about the same thickness so that both templates end up looking about the same. All right, so I have an outline there. This one is set to the outside, and then I've realized, and I might be able to do a little research on that. So can Affinity, this is like me live researching while I'm teaching you something. Affinity do multiple outlines. Now, Photoshop can do multiple outlines, and I will show you that. Multiple strokes in Affinity Photo. See, Affinity Designer may have the option. Now, years ago, Photoshop did not have the option to do multiple strokes. And I guess I've been spoiled, because now that it has, I can't imagine what I did before. Well, I do know what I did before. I had to duplicate whatever layer I was working on several different times and use the minimal, like it only allowed for one outline. So if I wanted 3 outlines, I would have to copy this object 3 times and do the outline to each one of those layers. So the second layer would get a little bit thicker outline, the third layer would get the thickest outline, and then that's how I was able to achieve multiple outlines. I absolutely do not want to do that, but it appears as if that's what I'm going to have to do. So let's do that. Let's do our first gradient on this one is our first outline on this one is a gradient. So we're going to go from the darkest color, let's scroll down a little bit, and then we'll pick from this image too if it allows us to. So let's go to our color. Let's use our color picker, and I did figure out what you have to do is drag it onto an area that you want to collect the color from. So let's grab that dark red there, and then it stores it into the circle, and then you click the circle. Yeah, I didn't get that last time. So thank you all for being patient with me while I learned how to do that. But just like you all, I'm coming back with new information and getting better. So I'm also going to take this color and make it that same red. And then from there, I know it doesn't look like a gradient right now. I'm going to click somewhere along this line to create another color stop. And let's make that color, let's drag our color picker and get us an orange, good old orange. And again, we'll hit the circle to lock that color in. So now we're going from red to orange, and if on this one, the default angle is 0, I'm going to make it 90 and hit enter. So I just typed in 90 here for the angle so that it goes from top to bottom. And already it's looking a little high. So that's a good thing. Let's go ahead and move our orange more towards the center. And then for the darkest red, it doesn't have this color red in it, but for some reason I like to do this just to make a really dark red towards the beginning and the end, and it adds a little bit of contrast for me. So these end ones, you can't move them, but you can change the color of them. So we're just going to make them a little bit darker. All right, so I'm happy with that. I'm gonna hit close on that so I have my first outline. Now, because I cannot do another outline, it is killing me. All right, so we're just gonna close that down. And let's see, can we right click and duplicate? Yes, we can. So we're gonna duplicate this, and we're gonna duplicate once more. So let's duplicate twice, so then we have a total of 3 layers. And I'll tell you what we're going to do to the top layer. So the middle layer is the one that's going to keep this outer stroke. The top layer is the one where we're going to double click on this one, and we still want to outline, but instead of aligning to the outside, we're going to tell it to align to the inside. So immediately you see that line transfer to the inside. And this one actually did a little bit better job than the multiple stroke. So you see with Photoshop with the multiple stroke, it kind of inset in there a little bit. But I digress. We're gonna keep moving and show you what we can do with this particular program. So we got the blend mode on normal, and we should have gradient on, and the opacity is down. So for this one, I'm going to crank the opacity up so we can see what it's working with here. And I'm going to let this one have a little more yellow in it. So I'm going to create a stopping point or a color stop right there in the middle. And for the color, I'm going to grab me some yellow. All right, there you go, yellow. Drop it. Now you have to drop it and lock it. So now that it's locked, I can put that in there. And this is going for my inside color. Now, if I don't like the placement of where this is, I can move my yellow down. So now it's more like I had it before, towards the center. That's cool. And same thing with this orange. If I want a little more red towards the top, I can make that happen. So I'm liking this just how it is. I'm going to close that and say okay. So now my outside stroke, now I got to play with that one. So that would be, ooh, and my inside stroke kind of messed with my text here a little bit and cut it in a little too much. And I don't like that. So let me double click on that and maybe change this outline. Not for this one, but for the top layer. For the top layer, let's take the outline, bring the opacity back up, and instead of inside, let's do center. So then that way it's still getting some of the inside, but it's not getting so close to where it's cutting off in some of these important areas. We'll say close to that. Then for the second layer, which has the same gradient right now, well, actually it doesn't have the yellow in it, and that's why you're seeing a little difference between this one. So let's increase our radius a little bit so we can see it. And we do see it there. And I'm probably going to decrease the radius of the other one a little bit. So I'm not going to have exactly the thickness that I know I'm going to have right now. Let's do, for this one, let's increase, put the orange about where the yellow on the previous one is. And then we're going to pull a little more of this red up. Make it a little bit longer. Okay, I think, let's see, for this color stop, let's even make this red a little bit darker. So we can tell the difference between the first outline and the second outline. We're just going to make it a little subtle, but you'll definitely be able to see that it'll make a difference. All right, I am happy with that. So that was number 2. And then for, and close that out, number 3. So number 3 is just a solid black outline. And I'm going to double click on the effects, and instead of a gradient here for the fill style, I'm going to choose solid color. Now you can't see it right now because it's the exact same size as the first one, So let's increase that radius so we can see what's going on behind there. And slowly you see it peeking through. And there we have our black outline. Now the reason why I do a black outline and a drop shadow is because I want this to still, when I have a drop shadow, I still want to see a smooth and even outline around the areas that don't get touched by the drop shadow, and it does make a difference, and I'll show you that. I'll turn this layer off later so you can see what the difference is. So let's go ahead and on this layer do the outer shadow, and for here we'll choose the 100% for the opacity, and we'll just increase this radius and see what that looks like. We'll bring up the offset. Offset is pretty much how far it's going to go from the original source. And we'll increase the intensity. Now for this particular design, I did a very hard shadow. It's a, a graphic choice. You don't have to do a hard shadow, but I did that intentionally. And when I crank this thing up to 100% intensity, I get these very jagged lines, and I am not happy with that at all. So I'm going to see if I can bring it down a little bit. Maybe the program isn't designed to have 100% intensity. And I'm going to see if maybe I can play with my radius to affect change a little bit cleaner than that. But I do want the hard line, so I'm not sure why I can't get what I want. I don't know if this is true rendering, like this is how it's going to print, or if this is just for the sake of display and trying to save data, if that's the real rendering of that shadow. Because if it is going to be choppy like that, I guarantee you I would not use it. And I might not even use this program for that very reason. So here we go. When we're doing intensity higher, it's giving me the steps. So maybe if I bring it to 99, will it go away? And then let's bring my radius down a little bit. This cannot be what this really looks like. I'm thinking this might just be rendering. I wonder if I printed this, if it would print like that. And I definitely wouldn't want to proof that to someone like that, because when I tell you, people do not spare your feelings when it comes to their designs. They don't like something, they will definitely state it. So yeah, now I'm getting this kind of halo effect, and that's not making me happy either. Like, I don't know what is up. This is certainly not cool. All right, so I'm making this have about a 45-degree angle right now. I'm gonna bring down the radius and bring down this intensity, and then pull up the radius while the intensity is down and see if that makes a difference. Guys, I don't know how to explain this issue with this jagged pixelated edge of a drop shadow. I cannot deal with that. That is horrible. And maybe somebody somewhere has an explanation for this, but for me, that's a no-go. Not at all. Let me see if I bring it to 98. Does it still have that effect? we'll keep it at 98 and see if we can deal with it that way. But yeah, your girl's not feeling that. So let me see if I change to negative 45. That's about where I have it. So I do have a drop shadow. It's not the one that I want. It is a little fuzzy, but at least it doesn't have those little steps all over the place. And as a matter of fact, let me close this out and I'm gonna put a new layer. They call it a new pixel layer in this program. And I'm just gonna paint with white just so I can see how this looks. And that looks horrible. Who told you to do that, Affinity? No, ma'am. No ham, no burger. This is not going to work. I can guarantee you, if you show that to somebody, they're going to ask you, will it have those little fuzzy gray lines around it? And yeah, that's not what you want. I'm going to pull this down, and I guess we're just going to have to let this be fuzzy today. Now, in Designer, I'm pretty sure it would be a lot easier to do that. And I don't want to keep encouraging y'all to buy all these different programs, but Designer is the version of Illustrator. What Illustrator is to Photoshop is what Designer is to Affinity Photo, and it's vector based. So I'm sure with vector based we can make outlines along this all day and not have any issue. But this rendering is completely, yeah, completely garbage. Well, I guess you get my real input on a video because I'm not re-recording this just to tell y'all that there was no solution. So you get to see me trying to work through it, and I do my best to, um, you know, problem solve and do what I can to achieve absolutely anything that I see. And that is just not, it's not working with us. So we'll hit to scale with the object. So maybe this would not print this way. I don't know. But this might be one of your sacrifices here working in this program. So I'm going to go ahead, and now that I know we're not going to get our good clean edge, I did want to show you this is why I keep the black outline, because you see the drop shadow doesn't touch the top at all because of the angle and the offset we have selected. So I use the black outline to kind of make it feel like that shadow has continued to the upper part. And bump it. I'm going to put it on this extreme because I really want to see what happens if I try to print this. And I will let y'all know what happens if I print it. If I print it and it prints those janky lines, then yeah, we definitely know this is a no-go. All right, so we have the drop shadow on there. We have the second and third, well, the first and the second outline. The third outline is black with the drop shadow. And now for the drum roll, we're going to, yeah, sound effects are horrible. We're going to drag in an image of flames. Just drag it in, just pop it on there from your internet search there. And then I'm going to drag it. I'm going to lay it on top of my text because I want y'all to see the magic happen. We're going to drag it into the right. So I hovered over, brought it down just a little bit, and dragged it over to the right. And it's almost like like when you're bulleting text and you go down and you go to the right, you indent over a little bit. That's exactly how I did it. So I pulled down and I indented to the right. And now it is encapsulated or clipped inside of this text. So that's cool. I do like that better in Affinity than Photoshop. But your girl is definitely not feeling this JE heartbreak. I don't get it. I'm sorry. I don't know why it's doing this. I don't understand. So let's try this. If that is going to look that way, let's say, Shannon, well, what would your real solution be if I had to use this program? Then I would tell you to maybe duplicate this bottom layer. Okay, so we got to duplicate it. I'm going to turn off the drop shadow or the outer shadow from this top layer. And I'm going to turn off the outer shadow from this layer. And I'm going to say, you just broke my heart. Don't want to deal with you anymore. What I'm going to do is crank up the radius on this bottom layer. And I hate doing this because it's not what you should have to do. But I'm going to drop it down. I'm just hitting my down arrow down and to the left. And I'm kind of manually creating this drop shadow effect. So now I can go into my stroke and I can, or they call it outline in this program, it's a stroke in Photoshop, and then I can make it smaller. You will not have to do all this in Photoshop. And when I do the Photoshop version of this tutorial, it's going to be on the same video just because I don't like to edit videos. So you're going to get it all for real, real time. All right, so that gives us the effect a lot better. That's how I would do this. That would be my quote unquote solution. However, let's say you wanted to change this text here and you wanted to say something other than hot girl. You would have to double click on each of these and change the text, or click on the text there, double click on the text and change the text for each of these layers. And that kind of defeats the purpose for me, but you still do get your effect. Yeah, that doesn't make me too happy, but we can pretty much pull from here and do the rest of our business. Now let's group this. Control G is going to put it in the group. And I do like that when you group something, you actually see what the group looks like in Affinity. That's very helpful. In Photoshop, you don't get that. You see a picture of a folder instead. And that is helpful to actually see what the group is. But we're still going to name it Hot Girl Photo Flame Group. So it is a group. Alright, so next thing we're going to do is we're going to warp this puppy because we want it to kind of have this arched up appearance. So let's drag it down just a little bit. And then we'll select this mesh warp tool down here to the left. You probably don't see it completely just because I have my monitor set to show things larger. And sometimes that cuts off parts of my tools on my programs. So let's see how we can do this. I believe, yep. So we're just going to play with the Control Z. I think there's a way I could just pull up this center. There we go. And if I hold down Shift, does it do anything? No. Usually if you hold down Shift, it maintains some kind of straightness. And I'm going to arch the middle up a little bit. See, in Photoshop, if I hold down Shift, it won't let me go to the left, to the right, and distort that in that direction. So it would cause me to go straight up. But we'll work with what we got. And then I'm also pulling this up from the bottom. But as you can see, if you shift it just to the left or right a little bit, you're going to get a different appearance. So I've got about my arch that I want there. And then the other text seems to be a little bit taller. So I guess I have to save what I did. Hold on. Let's try this again. As a matter of fact, go back. See if I arch the bottom first. Then arch the top. It seems to be pretty good. Oh, I know what it did. Did it merge everything just because it warped it? That's not good. Let me just hit apply and see what happens. I believe that's what it did. Yes, it did. So when we get to the warping, I guess in Affinity, that would be your absolute last step because you can't edit this anymore. And I'm just going to Control Z because I really don't like that. If I would have known it was going to be destructive, then before I did anything else, my suggestion is if you're going to do anything permanent to something, duplicate it first because you never know if you're going to need to go back to this point, or maybe even change the text. And then I would just turn it off so you don't see it. And then I would do the warping to this layer. So let's try that. And yes. Oh, I should have read this before I was talking. The assistant rasterized the layer you previously had selected because it was not a raster layer. You need it to be a raster layer, obviously, in order to warp it in this program. So I guess the assistant helps you do some things. And I'm glad that the assistant was there to explain something to me that I probably should have already read. All right, so let's do it. We need to click on our warp tool and now we can warp it, but keep in mind this is merged now. And then we're getting some different little features here, which I have worked with the same type of node manipulation in Photoshop. It's not that much different. However, in Photoshop, there is an option where you can just warp the text itself. And I have not seen that here. Usually when you're on the text tool, you can do that. And this isn't bending quite how I would want it to, but like I said, as I promised, I would show you what I would do in this Affinity program. And then I'm just gonna hit apply. And now I do have that sort of arch text, but it doesn't look like my Photoshop version, but it's cool. It still has the arch to it. You're able to do this in the program that you paid $50 for the lifetime of the program. So you gotta weigh your pros and your cons with that. But I definitely feel like I got a better effect with Photoshop with this one. So I am going to do the airbrush one after this, but I do want to show this same setup in Photoshop. So if you want to, someone can put in the text what time this is on the YouTube video, because I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do all this extra work for y'all. I'm already doing enough. But you can say like Affinity photo flame started at this time, and then you can put the start time for the Photoshop version of this. So let's go ahead and bring Photoshop on the main screen. Let me see what I already have on here. Hopefully, like I said, my computer is going to be able to handle both Photoshop and Affinity at the same time, both running actively. And if not, then I'll show you my struggles. Okay, so this is the file that I was working out of when I originally created this template, but I'm going to make it fresh and new so you will believe me that I created this from scratch. No, I'm not going to save that right now. Okay, so, and this is an example too of the same text you can use in these ways. So we'll keep take all those down. Oh, that's one that I figure I can show y'all too. Everybody wants to do the little Toon Squad. If somebody reminds me, I'll do that one as an example too. I get all the time these requests to do a lot of these trendy things. So now starts the Photoshop portion. I'm not going to open a new layer. You guys know how to do file new, do your 13 by 19 with 150, and Photoshop is going to be called PPI, pixels per inch, and Affinity is DPI, dots per inch. So let's go ahead and make this happen. I'm going to Control plus to zoom in a little bit, and I'm going to, with my text tool, start typing the word hot girl. And maybe I want to put a space in between there. Who knows? I could get a little crazy today. All right, so let's do Control T to transform, and we'll take this corner and drag it to a little bit bigger size. And then we will change our font. So I'm going to go to my character tool and type in my flame font. All right. So we will, before I do anything else, I'm not going to, because what I'll do typically is change the spacing. Oh, my spacing is on 40, that's why. Last time I did something, I increased the spacing, and sometimes you'll need to do that, but I want my spacing to be on 0 right now. And then if I need to bring it in or space the letters out a little bit more, we can do that after we figure out how the effects affect the text here. All right, so y'all see my flame fire font. It will be available on the website for purchase. You will no longer have to have SVG alphabets. This is an editable font, so it's editable even in programs like your PowerPoint and your Word documents. So as long as you install it on your system, you should be able to open it in any program that you use as with the text editor. All right, so let's get going, Photoshoppers. First things first, now in Photoshop, we can do all of our multiple lines. We just found out we cannot do that in Affinity. So first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and get my effects going and flowing. We're going to go to our effects and add a stroke. The first stroke is going to be, that's like a little gold there. And I have to move this over so you can see as I'm doing something. So for the gradient stroke, let us choose, let me see if I already have. Well, I'll show you what you might see. You might see black and white, so let's go with the black and white. And I will show you how to do it, because sometimes you say, well, you already had this set up. So if it wasn't set up for me, how would I achieve it? And this is how you take your black or whatever's down here, it's a color stop. And you can double click there and change it to any color you like. So let's do this dark orange color there and say okay. And then if I click on that color stop, any color stop that you click on, you can click in a whole nother place and that color stop will duplicate. So I can do 2 color stops for that dark orange, and now it's all solid, all that orange color stop. So I'm going to put something in the middle, and the last thing I clicked on was a white. That's why it created a color stop for white there. I'm going to click on that color, and I'm going to make it yellow. Well, I thought I was making it yellow. There we go, now I made it yellow. Okay, and this is going to be for my inside one. So I got a little yellow, I got a little orange, and then for this last one, I'm going to make it more of a darker red. So I'm going to make sure I'm more in the red area, and I'm making it really dark, almost a burgundy color. And although that color is not very prevalent in the fire or in the flame photo, it will make it, pop off from the photo itself. So we can do that. Let's bring this yellow more towards the center. Bring this orange up, and I'm going to click on my red, because if I click down here again, it's going to bring me some red down there. And I am good with this. Now, what I can do, if I want to save this, I can save this as a new swatch, and I will have that as a preset for the next time I want to apply a gradient. And I would suggest you do that anytime you make a cool gradient. Just save it. Just hit new, and it'll save it for the next time. Okay. So that is our first one. Now, like I said, in Photoshop, it didn't used to be the case, but now it is, and I'm spoiled. I have the option to add another stroke. So if I add a stroke, it is going to duplicate that exact same stroke. You don't see it because it's the same exact size and everything. Now, if I am to increase that stroke, I can see it change. And then the stroke that is, well, let's do this. Let's keep the stroke on the inside smaller. And then the stroke on the outside is the one that we're going to make bigger, just for the sake of seeing the difference right now. And then the stroke on the inside, I'm going to keep the yellow. Stroke on the outside, I'm going to take off the yellow because I want it to be a little bit of a difference between the two so you can see it. And you can immediately see where one stops and the other one starts, but it's still not a harsh difference between the two. So the other thing I was going to do is for the first stroke, instead of doing it set to the outside like we did with the Affinity version, we're going to bring this one more centered. And I think the size of it is okay. It's pretty consistent with the source image. And I'm going to bring this size of the second one down just a little bit. And maybe we do need this stroke to be towards the inside. Yeah, and then we need to change the size just a little bit. Bring it down. Bring down the size of the one on the outside. And then we need one more stroke. So we're going to hit the plus sign on the stroke one more time. And this one is going to, instead of a gradient, it's going to be a color. And the color is going to be black. So we'll choose all the way down to the left. Say OK. And let's increase the outline here. And I just want it to be big enough to where I do see some outline there, even though I'm going to do a drop shadow here. Now, you realize we did all of this to the same text. So if we retype this word hot girl, it's going to type whatever, it's going to change the effects with the type. The Affinity version, we had to duplicate the text 4 times in order to achieve the same effects. So I would have to type the text 4 times if I wanted to update that. And not to mention, I can't warp anything until everything is merged, and that is a huge drawback. So here I'm playing with the distance, the spread, and the size, just like I did in Affinity. And what I'm trying to achieve is that very harsh line. And then I'm going to bring my opacity all the way up to 100 so I can see if I can make it look like my source image. And that looks very similar. I may have to change the angle of my light source just a little bit so I can get it to come down. What is this? This is bottom right heavy. So that means my light will be coming from right about here. And in Photoshop, you can actually, I'm on my shadow layer, I can actually move my shadow to where I want it to go. That's pretty cool. I didn't realize that until my brother showed me. And I am trying to make it touch that black outline a little bit. That's why I created it, so it makes it look like the shadow is a little bit continuous and outlining at the same time. So I might increase my black outline a little bit to make that a little more true. Oh, the other reason why this is different too, I believe I did this in Illustrator when I did my original offset outlines. So we're doing this all in Photoshop because I don't want y'all to feel like you have to buy all these different programs just to do what I'm doing. I'm trying to let you know, hey, any program that you're in, there is a way, there's a solution to achieve any look that you're looking to do. And I can even do a lot of this stuff in Illustrator. Illustrator hates it because Illustrator does not like bitmap images, but I'm sure Designer and Illustrator can do majority of these functions too. Alright, so I want to give myself a little arch. So in here in Photoshop, I can double click on the text, and matter of fact, I didn't even think I had to double click. But I'll double click on the text, and then I have my create warp text. Oh, it was on a faux bold. So it's going to take off my faux bold, which is fine. I didn't know I had faux bold on. That's basically where Photoshop tries to make it look bold, even if it doesn't have a bold option for the font. And I'm fine with Photoshop taking that off. I'm going to choose the arc. The arc option is going to bring it up and flare out the outside. That's not what I want. I want more of the arch option, which brings it up but keeps my sides tight. And then we can bring this down just a little. And you even have an option, like if you wanted to make it look like it was coming at you or anything like that, you can do a horizontal or vertical distortion. We're going to leave it alone at 0. And I'm going to say I'm okay with that, and that we're ready to drop in our flames. And you can manipulate this further. This, I actually did quite a little bit of manipulation because I wanted each letter stretched out a certain amount. I wanted it to not slant and do certain things that require a little bit of extra work. So that was actually achieved. And let me see if Photoshop will let me will it let me warp it and still be editable? It still looks editable. But is it really warping it? Okay, let's see. I think it is. It's warping it. Yeah, but it's pretty much giving me the same effect that the preset for the text effect did for me. So I'm just going to leave it alone because I'm trying to show you how to achieve this without too many steps. I don't want to overwhelm you. At this point, we are ready to bring in our photo of the flames. So I'm going to drag it and drop it onto the artboard. Put it over my text. Now in Photoshop, in Affinity Photo, all we did was drag it onto the layer and move it over to the right, and it did a self-clipping. In Photoshop, I have to right click and create a clipping mask, and whatever I'm working on trying to clip it to has to be immediately touching, and it has to be on the same levels. So Hot Girl can't be in a group and then this one's sitting outside the group. Well, technically you can clip to a whole group, but if I wanted this to clip exactly to this Hot Girl, I need it to be on the same level and immediately above it. So that is how we achieve that text. Simple, simple. And we did the same thing in Affinity. So now, and I already showed you all how to take this text and do the airbrush effect. I have a whole nother video on that, the airbrush effect in Photoshop. So now I'm going to go back to Affinity and do the airbrush effect for Affinity. So if someone can type what time on the timeline, I think all you have to do is put, minute, colon, seconds, and someone can click on it. It's like making a bookmark on the timeline of the video. Like I said, I'm not going to do it because I don't even watch these videos after I make them. Unfortunately, I don't have that type of time because I'm usually often making something else and something new. So if you can help your fellow mates out and record that time where we started the Photoshop photo flame, and when we start, now that we are starting the Affinity airbrush effect. So we'll do that next. And you're gonna have to wish me luck on this one because last time I checked, this effect did not translate well into Affinity. So I'm still in Photoshop. Let me move Photoshop over. And she gets a little cranky when I pull her over to this other screen because she already knows she's not getting attention. There you go, baby. That's okay. All right. Let's get into this airbrush look. So now we have, this is, I guess, to do a quick comparison of how we were able to achieve this in the Photoshop versus the Affinity way. We're able to pretty much achieve the same effect. But right now, we're gonna take that off, and this will be available as a template. So I'll tell you guys what, from here, let's see, today, let's do, I don't know when this is gonna post. I'm gonna stop lying to y'all, telling y'all a certain time, because obviously some of these things don't post when they say they're gonna post. So for this one, when it posts, I will have a uh 24-hour window if you purchase the font to get the template. And I'll just go ahead and give you the Affinity template and Photoshop template, and then that way you can use whichever one you want. And then that way you can see, I want you to create these things from scratch, but if you need to see what I did, you can always break open these layers and double click on the effects and see what those effects are. You can also, let's see, I want to say you can, hold on, buddy. I want to say you can take the effects and drag just, can you drag just the effect? Nope. I thought there was a way to drag just the effect, but that might be Photoshop and I might be tripping. But let's see if there's a way to take what I did with these effects. Maybe I can drop it into a style. Nope, that did not do it. Let me just quit messing with that. I told y'all I was gonna show y'all this airbrush look. So I'm gonna go into that. Y'all got to see my ADD in full effect just now. Got on a whole nother tangent. So let's take off everything but the airbrush look at this moment. And then we'll bring the airbrush look higher so you can see it. And we'll just look at the 850 because that's probably all we're gonna do, because the hottie isn't the flame font. Honestly, I don't remember what font it is, so I don't want to try to spend time font searching. So let's just do this 850 and show you what it does. I'm going to start typing with my text tool, 850, and the flame font is still there. I'm going to make it a little bit larger. And here, just like we had to do before, we're going to have to do multiple versions of this type to probably achieve this glowing effect. But for now, we're going to roll with what we need to roll with. So we've got 850. Then we're going to do a gradient overlay. Go ahead and check that off. And for the gradient overlay, let's click on that gradient. And before we change the colors, let me go ahead and change this angle to 90. Hit enter. And it's going to go vertically now instead of horizontally. And let's choose our colors. So first stopping point, the color, we're going to get our color picker and just pick this pink. You can have any source image you want ready to go. If you have a photo of your shoes, put a photo of your shoes on your artboard. It is so cool to make your outfit match your shoes. Okay? Alright, so let's do the pink there, and it's fading to white. So I'm going to choose the white color stop. Click on it once. Use my color picker, and I'm pretending I'm picking from my shoes. And automatically you have something to match your sneakers. Alright, now I'm wanting these colors to be a little bit more intense next to one another rather than this gradual, because I'm getting a little too much orange here. So if I want that, let me click on this first one, and then all I did was click in another place, and it's giving me that pink again, that exact pink. And I'm going to do the same thing with yellow. Click, and it added me another yellow color stop. And I can bring these colors closer together, create that intense meeting point, and I want to say that's about it there. And then if I wanted this yellow to be a little bit brighter yellow, let's see, what would I do? I would increase, I guess, the green there. See, I'm getting more of like a lemon yellow instead of that sun yellow, and that's cool for me. Make it real intense, bright yellow. I'm good with that. And let's hit close on that. Well, before we hit close, we're also able to go ahead and do our stroke. We can do in here, it's not called a stroke, it's called an outline. In Photoshop, it is called a stroke. Let's do radius, increase that. I'm just trying to match my source image. I am not using exact pixels or anything of that nature. Why don't you use your eyeballs, if you have them. All right, so let's see. Next, we'll do our first initial glow. So let's see, we're doing outer glow, and I'm just gonna change all this to normal because I'll get my most intense colors. I don't have to worry about how it blends with anything underneath it. And let's increase this radius and intensity until we see something. Oh, we're not gonna see anything. The color's white. Okay, that's a good lesson. Let's take our color picker and pick our pink. And then of course we have to hit the circle color to apply it. And we're getting a nice little soft glow here. And let's see if that's how we want it. We definitely want it to be a little more intense here. I'm getting that. I am getting that. Not bad, Affinity. Okay, I'm not mad at Affinity now. So I have not applied my bevel and emboss. So that's how I have on Photoshop. I was able to get this kind of 3D popping out at you. Why did I do a color overlay? I'm trying to do bevel and emboss. Okay, and it does have a little bit of a beveling effect to it. Let's see if we can do inner, the outer. I probably want to keep it inner because I don't want it touching my black outline. I want my black outline to stay black and not get muddied down by the effect of the 3D bevel and emboss. Now, I guess 3D would be something different. 3D is not what we're doing, although you may want to play with that to achieve a desired effect. So I'm increasing the radius so I get a little more of that softer, puffier look. You do not have to do that. You can soften it or keep it sharp. I think I'm going to keep it sharp because I want it to look like it is really reflecting. And the direction I'll leave alone. Highlight, I might bring this highlight a little bit more opacity, just because I really want to see that white kind of gleam off of there. And then for the shadow, you could increase the shadow opacity to see what it does. But honestly, I think I'm going to bring it down because I don't really want a lot of dark color inside of my text. So my radius and my depth, it looks like here it is locked. Let me unlock it and see what happens when I change my depth independently of my radius. Yeah, it's not giving me my complete Photoshop vibes, but that's cool. I at least am getting a little bit of that shape to it, and I may have to soften this up a little bit so it doesn't look like it's carved. I want it to look more like it was airbrushed that way. So I am softening it up a little bit. And you see in Photoshop I get more of my little glossier look. And I think I'm going to have to call that what it is and call it done. So I was able to get my gradient, my first glow with the outline, all on this one layer. So that's cool. That's good, as a matter of fact. So now if I want to achieve this second glow, I'm going to close this for a second. I'm going to right click and duplicate this layer. I think I just deleted it. I don't know why they put delete and duplicate right next. Aren't they like the most opposite things you can possibly do to a layer that you actually want to do something to? So yeah, duplicate. Photoshop has the same exact issue. I think they did that on purpose. Right, so we have a duplicate now, and I'm going to edit the one that's at the bottom because I'm going to add this glow around here. Now technically I don't need any of this other stuff. I don't need it to have an outline. I don't need it to bevel and emboss. I don't even need it to have a color overlay. It's underneath all of this. So I'm going to take those off, so hopefully it will be less data intensive. Now I will affect this outer glow. So this outer glow is supposed to be this yellow. So I'm going to drag my color picker over to my yellow, and then I'm going to apply it by clicking on the circle. And here I do have to increase my intensity and also my radius. Now here's the problem that I was having. I could not get and if anybody knows different, please let me know, because I don't want to give misinformation. But in Photoshop, I have the option, as you see in my video, to create a curve. So that little dip, and I'm doing it with my mouse as if it's right here, but it'll give me an option to create these high and low points. So the high and low points creates a skip. At the low points, it doesn't put anything, and at the next high point, the next peak, it starts that glow again. I do not have that option here that I can see. So in order to mimic that, I'm going to close this one. I'm going to duplicate this layer so that the bottom layer is going to be the heavy yellow, the top layer is going to be the heavy pink, and then the middle layer, when I double click on it and change the outer glow, I'm going to change it to white. And I can use my color picker and just select white from the artboard here, or I could have slid all of the sliders all the way to the right. So we've got that white, and as you can see, it already started to knock out. Now the problem that I have with this is that this is not transparent. So if I were to put this on any kind of background, I'm going to see that white. Alright, so let's do a little bit of reduction of this radius so we can see more of our yellow popping through. The intensity still has to be up there though. So now you see we get a similar effect, but it's making the pink kind of still blend close to that yellow, and I just wanted that clean little break. But for those of you who are asking me how to do this in Affinity, I have answered you. And like I said, I'll make this available as a template as well. The blings. Let us get our brushes. That is not the brush, that is the brush. And I'm going to create a new layer. So add a pixel layer. That's the checkerboard option down here. And I'm going to paint on some blings. So we'll do, where are my brush options? See the width, all of that good stuff. Where are my brush options? This is one of those things where I'm looking for it in a place that it is probably typically low in Photoshop, but I know it's got to be here in Affinity Photo as well. That force pressure to control size, that's not what I wanted. Where are my brushes? I bet I created like a little window for it. Brushes. Appear with color and swatches. Cool beans. Oh, that's the other thing. You could have taken some of these colors and made swatches of them to use at a later time, but I like the color picker. Let's do, what are we looking for? Some blingage. Let's go to our innate brush arsenal, and we're looking for some blings. Some bling tings. Paint splashes. Here's some blings. All right, so let's do one of these blings and you see how large it's going to be. One thing I really do like about Affinity that it does preview your brushes. I don't get that. I get the outline preview in Photoshop, and there's probably a way to change that. Edit, undo paintbrush. I want to make sure my paintbrush initially is white, and we're going to do that by going to our colors and changing the colors to white. And I think we need to decrease the size a little bit. Let's see how big is it going to make it. Yeah, that's pretty big. And I also think that I'm going to choose a little bit more of a fuzzy, a brush that has a softer glow on the interior. So yeah, that's what I'm talking about. So let's decrease this width a little bit. There it is. And I'm just going to randomly put things here. And the thing about it is, I do use this same, because I'm not going to do this. Every time I change something, I'm not going to go in and just say, oh, you need a sparkle here, and a little sparkle there, and a bit of a sparkle in that corner. Yeah, I'm tired, y'all, so forgive me when I get goofy. That's what happens when I get tired. Okay, so I'm just blinging away. And then what I'll usually end up doing is just taking these same blings and using them. I don't care if something has a G that hangs to the bottom. If I don't have anything down there, tough cookies. You're just getting what you get and you don't complain a bit. Now I'm going to take this layer and I'm going to duplicate it. And then once I duplicate it, I will change the color of the one underneath to have a color, and then the one on top will be white, and it will kind of be offset as if it was intended that way. So I'm going to take this layer and we're going to name this one Bling White, and then we will duplicate this layer, not delete it, duplicate, and then it will name the one on the bottom Bling Color. Okay, so the one on the bottom, we're going to do a color overlay. Bam, color overlay, simple, simple. We're going to choose our pink color. So we'll do our color picker, grab on to some of this pink somewhere that doesn't have a sparkle on it. Choose that color to apply, and automatically you're getting your pink, so I'm happy with that. And then what I do is I just adjust this layer, and I'm going to make sure I'm on the move tool, and I'm going to adjust it down just a little bit. So now you see it starts to pop out a little more 3D. And I'll do like down to the right, just like you would a shadow or something, just to give it a little offset. And it would have been nice if I had told the brush to rotate, then all of my sparkles wouldn't look the same orientation. I can teach you that at a later time, but for this one, I just wanted to get y'all on the road to happiness. I forgot Control T does not transform in this program. Oh, let me also, is there a way to link these? Live filters. I don't know if there's a way to link them, but I'm going to group them. So I can bring them in. And then if I want to stretch them out disproportionately, I can push from the inside. Now the other thing that I typically do is I don't usually let my white be like pure white. So I'll go into my white bling and bring the opacity down. So my opacity is 100, I might bring it down a little bit so it's a little bit of a softer glow. It's not so harsh. And if I wasn't being so lazy, I would have made a whole bunch of little tiny ones, but I will let that be your homework to make these blings as blinged out and pretty as possible. But that is it. So I'll recap what we did today. We did the flame font, which was the focus for today. We did the flame font in two different ways. One way we dropped a image inside of the text, so we clipped an image inside the text, and then the next thing we did was turn it into an airbrush looking font. So when you see some of these things and I'm showing you how I'm applying them and putting them on apparel, maybe a bit of your brain is trying to figure out like how that was achieved exactly, but really start wiring your brain to kind of troubleshoot when you see something. The reason why this airbrush tutorial even exists is because people kept asking me, hey, do you do airbrush? And I'm like, I do sublimation. That means I can do anything. Like you can print any kind of way. Like, why would you want it to be airbrush if you can get it sublimation and it will last your lifetime, will never crack, peel, or fade? It's one of my spiels. So they just wanted an airbrush effect, is what I figured out. So once I started showcasing the airbrush effect, it started bringing people's attention to, just like if you were on the beach and you saw an airbrush shirt, it just made you feel like you wanted it right then and there. So this is one of those tools now. I looked at some airbrush style shirts and I said, okay, well, I'm going to mimic that exact, and I looked for templates. I looked for effects that existed, and there were none, surprisingly. And this is a very popular style of way to do your text, especially on custom shirts. So since there was nothing that existed that I knew of, I just created a way to do it, and then I'm sharing that with you. When I tell you I could find nothing on how to do this, but that doesn't mean it can't be done. And I'm telling you that to tell you that just because I don't have a tutorial for it or you can't find a tutorial for it does not mean that you can't be the solution. So with that said, you have homework, guys. Let me see your airbrush effect. Even if you do not purchase this font, that is no excuse. You know how to do this now. You can do it with absolutely any font. It doesn't have to have flames on it. Let me see you clip a photo into your text, whether it be the flame fire font or not. Clipping a photo is your homework number one, and you get double duty homework today since somebody asked me to create this in Affinity. Now you have double homework. So now you see what happens when your cohorts ask me for extra stuff. So y'all get to work. Let me see you do the airbrush effect and let me see you do photo clip. Tag me, tag me, tag me. I love to see what you all do. I'm always uber proud of you guys. Even when you think you failed at something or you're hard on yourself, when I see what you're doing, especially considering that you're not even touching these programs because you're scared of them, and I know that you went in there and you tackled your fear and you created something, you're creating greatness. Just keep working at it, and I will keep encouraging you and hopefully providing helpful content. And we're gonna get this together. We're gonna get it together, my friends. I think that is it for today. Like I said, I'm gonna put um the font up, and then once I post this video, once it actually goes active, we'll have 48 hours. And how I'm gonna do it is just if you purchase the font file, then I'm going to give you the template. I really love doing the whole, comment, subscribe, do this, do that, and the other. But I find it's harder for me to keep up with y'all, and it's like homework I got to check. And yeah, I'm not that kind of teacher. So please, at free will, like, comment, subscribe. The more you comment on the videos, the longer you watch the videos, it does help me to create this free content and bring to you, because eventually, I don't get paid for this yet, but eventually it will monetize and it will be a way of sustaining my lifestyle of sitting at the computer and talking to you lovely people. And then it will also help sustain me being able to come up with new content, purchase programs that y'all want me to try out, and all of that good stuff. So right now, I'm doing all of this out of pocket. I love you guys, and I know you love your girl, but yeah, I want to be able to continue to do this. So y'all continue to support and let me know if there are any videos that you would like to see, and I will put it on my list of to do things. And if it's something really popular or pressing, then I will bump it up. If you actually want to do a commissioned tutorial where basically you say, hey, I want to learn how to do this and I want you to record a tutorial for me, I'll give you whatever you charge, per hour to create a tutorial for me. I'll do it, and then I'll post it for everyone else to be able to see as well. So that's a way that you can help yourself and help others as well. So I think I'm signing out on this one for the evening. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys. And until next time, we will be on design.